Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Hey, hop on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. On the show today, Drewbie Wilson. I never had a person on the show named Drewbie. That's an interesting name. He is a success-driven entrepreneur and health transformation expert who went from weighing over 300 pounds to losing more than 100 through dedication and hard work. With a track record of generating seven-figure revenues across various industries, Drewbie embodies his motto, call the damn leads and crush the day before it crushes you, as he inspires others to become the most elite versions of themselves. Drewbie, welcome to the show.
Mark, thank you for that wonderful introduction, for saying all those nice things about me, and for the opportunity to be here and spend a little time with you. The one thing you're going to hear me talk a lot about today is the value of time. So you giving me a little bit of yours, the guest sharing a little bit of theirs with me, it's a huge honor. So thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Now, I got to start out with asking the name of Drewbie. Is that your birth name? Because I have never met anyone in my life. I've been on this planet over 59 years, never heard the name Drewbie. So that's to your benefit, because, you know, you probably can get DrewbieWilson.com without a problem. So tell us about the name Drewbie.
Yeah, I sure as heck did get DrewbieWilson.com, as a matter of fact. It's a name that followed me from my childhood. I grew up playing video games, kind of running the streets with friends, and my real name is Andrew Wilson. It's kind of a standard American name, kind of boring. There's about 50 or 60,000 of us across the country at any given time, and so it's, not a unique name. And as we grow up, we get given these nicknames. And, as I've kind of grown and learned that sometimes you have to be given a new name in order to become a new version of yourself. Ooh, and for me, as I progressed through life, I grew up in a not so stellar environment where I was involved in a lot of things that could have led me down a lot of bad paths. And then also, as I made the decision to transform, I still wanted to be me. Right? I didn't ever want to give up who I was as a human, as a person. And so Drewbie kind of just stuck with me, and I've really benefited from it, to your point, Mark, in that it's unique and it's memorable. And so people often ask me, well, hey, how did you get that name, or where did it come from? And that relationship building point is so massive for me as an individual who helps other individuals, that being able to start the conversation off in like a friendly way to explaining kind of how I got my name, it's always led to amazing conversations down the line.
Interesting. And I have to tell people a little behind the scenes. So we met on Podmatch, which is a platform where hosts and guests can match up. And Drewbie reached out to me, and then he found out it's a clean podcast, and he canceled. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? I really want to have you on the show. He goes, well, the name of my company's called the damn leads. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, if you don't say it a lot and you don't say any of the swear words, it'll be okay. Because one thing that I really got from Drewbie, and you could tell from the introduction, the word it comes to mind with Drewbie is discipline. And as a productivity expert, people tell me, oh, Mark, how do you get so much done every day? It's not by luck. It's not by hope and a prayer. It's discipline. I use social media. I don't allow social media to use me. And I think people need to step back and go, okay. And I first heard this from Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, stop blaming social media. Stop blaming your friends. Stop blaming your colleagues. Blame the person you see reflected back when you look in the mirror. It's your fault. If you're not where you want to be, it's your fault. It's nobody else's fault. And I got to believe you agree with me.
Oh, 100%. And you can even take it one further in that, if you have people in your life who are challenging you or are creating these things that you perceive as a challenge, you should thank them. Because every time you face a challenge, you're given an opportunity to grow and get better. And that reframe for me in my life, and kind of how I look at competition and the perspective of growth, has been so huge. Because again, you get to make that choice of, I'm going to be disciplined and do the thing that I know I need to be doing to get the result that I want, or I'm going to make excuses and rationalize it, which humans are really great about doing, is rationalizing the reason that they're not doing the thing that they know they need to do.
When I look at the successful people in our world, and I study them. I read their books. I watch what they're doing on social media. Not one of them got there by making excuses, by participating in the blame game. They are figuring out what they need to do, and they're doing it. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, what did they do wrong? Let me recalibrate. They don't make excuses. And when people say, oh, I wish I could be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Tony Robbins, et cetera, well, you can if you're willing to do what they did. There is no real secret to life. You got to do the things that people won't. One of my favorite quotes in the world is by Steve Harvey. He says, if you ever want to be successful, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I would argue a lot of people, they like to stay in their comfort zone, but you're not going to grow in your comfort zone.
No, 100%. And one thing that I've learned, and I love that you mentioned that, hey, you'll never be this, this guy, that guy. That's true. And also that's kind of a blessing for us and for the listener, because there's a book out there that I read early on in my journey, Steal Like an Artist. It's by Austin Kleon, Kleon. And the whole premise of it is that there's nothing really new in the world. All the ideas and strategies and the secret sauce, it's not new. That's why they say like success leaves clues. Like everybody who's ever had any amount of success wants to tell you about it, because some want to brag. Some of them just want to share. Hey, this thing worked for me. So like, go do it so you don't face the same struggle that I did. And what I love about that book is the perspective of, if you like what Tony Robbins does, and you like a little bit about what Gary Vee does, because he's an amazing content creator and Tony's an amazing motivator. And maybe though you're like, well, I don't necessarily love all of the stuff that Tony does. I like these parts, but you know what? I really like the way Gary does that a little bit better. So like, let me take a little bit about this from Gary. Let me take a little bit about this from Tony. Let me add in my own little secret sauce and flavor to it, right? My own authenticity. And that's what makes you unique. That's what allows you to truly stand out and become great. Because if you're doing all the same things that Tony Robbins does, and that's all you ever try to be, you're only ever going to be the next best Tony Robbins. Because he's always going to be a few steps ahead of you, because you're chasing what he's doing instead of creating your own version. Hopefully I explained that well.
No, you did. And I must be hungry, because the thing I thought about is pizza. Now, you can go to any your local pizza place, a national chain. Why does the pizza always taste different? A pepperoni pizza at Papa John's and Pizza Hut and Little Caesars and Domino's, why do they all taste different? Well, the base is all the same, but they add their own special ingredients. I think I'm hungry, Drewbie.
You got me going, because I got pizza waiting for me for lunch after this episode. So that's even, like the Lord works in mysterious ways. But there's a quote that I have from a mentor of mine that applies perfectly here. Methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do. And so your pizza analogy is so perfect, because the base of pizza is you need dough, sauce, cheese, toppings. Now, the variations of, well, what kind of dough and what's in the sauce and what sort of cheese, and are you doing a wood-fired pizza? Because that's my personal favorite. Or do you like a Chicago deep dish? That's a totally different kind of pizza, but you know what? It's still pizza, and we still love it. And if you ask us, hey, do you want some pizza? We'd probably go, yeah. That's the beauty of it.
I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about people we allow into our lives. We are being influenced by people 24/7, whether we realize it or not. And I encourage people, the people in your inner circle, you got to be really careful who you allow in your inner circle. So I know that very few people, your inner circle should not be 100 people, by the way. My inner circle is like about 5 people. And I know I can talk about anything amongst these people. We agree politically, but I've got to be able to say something and they won't go, well, that's stupid. Or they might, because I want brutal honesty, but won't just give me a vague answer. They're like, I don't agree with the answer that you gave me, and here's why. And so I think people need to have a trusted inner circle, people that you can help and they can help you. They don't have to be in your industry. They could be like, one of mine is my cousin. One of mine is my best friend, is also my wife. You need to have these people who are not going to judge you first. They're going to listen to what you say, because the world is going to judge you first, how many followers, how many likes, how many comments, what does he look like? Is he pretty? Is he whatever? And I think everyone needs to have an inner circle. You probably have an inner circle as well.
Oh, 100%. And I'm gonna challenge something you said just a little bit, because I really like what you said about how people will judge you based on social proof. Because here's something that's really happened to me as I've progressed over the last few years, and this story is going to work so well with this. At one point, when I was having some success in the insurance industry, we won some kind of big award, and the agent that I worked for was like, hey, I'm going to take you with me down to this event. You helped me win this thing, so I want to take you down, and I want to celebrate your hard work. And I was like, well, that's wonderful, like, you're going to take me on a little vacation? Like, heck yeah, boss, that's awesome. And so when we were at dinner, we're having this conversation about life and growth and how he was proud of me. And he was saying, hey, man, I know you kind of come from a bit of a rough past upbringing, and I'm really proud of what you've become and who you're becoming. And you should be proud, too. The thing that you need to think about and realize is that who you surround yourself with, the people you call your friends, they're ultimately going to determine where you end up in life. And I know that you're still hanging with some of those guys from the old days, and they might be good people, but if you're going to take that next step into being a business owner someday and having this next level, you're going to have to think about that. And I'll never forget, Mark, how offended I was and how standoffish I immediately became about my friends and my people, and how he shouldn't be judging, the character of my friends and knowing who he hangs out with. It was a very weird, almost like a God moment. But now that I look back on that conversation, I often thank him for reminding me that, hey man, it wasn't until I separated from some of those relationships and got into the right room with the right people and had the right conversations that the right things started actually happening in my life. And it's so powerful, though, because something you said about that social proof is you might create a piece of content and put that out on social media. And it might be an absolutely powerful piece of text or video or a message that just absolutely rings deeply within someone. But if you don't have 100 engagements on it, you don't have a bunch of other comments or other people who are actively saying that, hey, this is something I agree with, that one person who sees it may be afraid to actually acknowledge that they felt that message. And that's the thing about social media that I think so many miss the opportunity of, is that just because people aren't engaging with your content doesn't mean they're not seeing it. It doesn't mean that they're not hearing it or absorbing it and their lives are being impacted by it. So don't ever let the fact that you aren't getting tons and tons of engagement right away keep you from putting out the content, because I can promise you, I've gotten messages from people who have never liked on my posts, commented nothing, but they've sent me a message saying, hey, you helped save my life. Because I was listening to your podcast, I was, watching an interview that you were on, and you said this one thing about time and whatever it was. And it made me realize that I shouldn't take my own life, because there's so much more I can do with my time. Never liked, never commented, but this is the difference, though, is you don't have to have a ton of engagement. You just have to be yourself and know that the right people will surround you at the right time so that you can have those right conversations.
Let me clarify what I meant. What I was talking about is the inner circle, the people in the inner circle. They don't care how much engagement I get in social media. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you, by the way, 100%. I'm talking about people in your inner circle. My cousin doesn't care how many followers I have. I give him value both as his coach and as his cousin. But you bring up something very interesting about social media. I am of the opinion that we need to kill all metrics. I think the creators should see the metrics, because I've seen people, and they use pods, and you'll see a post with a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, and most of the comments are thumbs up emojis. And you look at it, you look at the contents, it's crap, because people are judging the content based on the engagement. And I've seen content, and you probably have too, with a lot of engagement that sucked and little engagement that was awesome. Why aren't people watching this content? Because the algorithm's looking at the metrics. I would love to see all the platforms hide the metrics behind the creator's profile. Now, obviously, the comments people are going to be able to count if they want to waste their time like that. But it's interesting we're going in this field here because I am of the plan what Gary talks about, the opinion I should say. 28 to 48 times I post on social media a day. And when I first heard that, I'm like, what? But then I realized, I've got content since 2011. And I create all my content. My wife she'll edit it and post everywhere. Well, you post the same video on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. Yeah, I did say Snapchat and X. That's 6 pieces of content. Boom. So it's really not that hard. If you do some behind the scenes, like if I want to take a picture right now for a story, it's not that hard. But here's the deal. People, again, remember I said in the beginning, we're making excuses. He just did a selfie.
I'm taking a selfie. You call me out, I'm going to do it because this is great content. This is the way it works, right? When you're struck with beauty, you got to make it happen, right, Mark? That's the thing.
I'm going to do this.
Come on, let's get one in. Yeah, might as well. I didn't want to interrupt you, but we're here. This is live. I'm going to do this in Snapchat, so no, I don't have to do it that way. So, all right, hang on a second. I don't want the flash on. This is okay. Give me a nice smile there, Drewbie. All right, I'll post that later. Come on. See, this is real time how it works, you guys. We're creating content and creating content within the content. And that's such a great point, though, Mark, because you can take one thing and multiply it 100 times if you understand the process. And so, carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but, you called me out, so I was like, hey, this is a perfect
now I got to ask you, what are you, are you Drewbie Wilson on Instagram?
Yeah, at Drewbie Wilson on Instagram. Actually, Drewbie Rides on Instagram or at Call the Damn Leads, whichever one is easier. Usually I just go at Call the Damn Leads on Instagram and then Drewbie Rides on Facebook. But either one.
Well, I did Drewbie Rides on Instagram. So
there you go. Okay. We're there. We'll figure it out.
There you go. Folks, this is live. This is what I do. But my point is, I talked at the beginning about making excuses. When people go, what am I going to post? Stop overthinking it. Yeah. Okay? Because what I found is, first of all, social media changes every 3 seconds. So what I found works really good is shorter content. A couple weeks ago, longer content. So I've been doing 15-second videos on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. That seems to be resonating now. 2 weeks ago was longer content. And the thing is, I hate the algorithm. I don't bow down at the altar of the algorithm. I do my thing. Love me or not, I'm going to show up every stinking day. You can count that. And I'm getting more and more followers because I'm being, here's the word, consistent. A lot of people aren't consistent. You know this. They get into podcasts and they don't have $100 million, allegedly, Spotify contract like Joe Rogan. They quit. They start a YouTube channel. They don't get 100 million subscribers in a week. They quit. You have to stay in this for consistency. Whether you're talking about building your social media profile, building your brand, writing your book, calling the damn leads, which I'm sure we're going to get to before too long. It takes discipline and it takes consistency. Nobody is going to do it for you.
Oh, that is so, so true. And here's a little story that will help the listener that maybe is just getting started in the content creation game, because it can be very overwhelming. And you're like, well, there's 15 different platforms and each platform wants a post and a video and a text and a story. And what the heck's a reel? How do I use that? I thought that was for fishing. So it can get very overwhelming. But here's what I know. If you pick one platform and you just put content on that one platform for 30, 60, 90 days and just get comfortable there, all of that content you create on that one platform, you can then reuse on all of the other platforms later. As long as you're saving things that you're creating, right? You're not just putting it out there and then throwing it in the trash. That's the beauty of the internet. Once it's there, it's forever. So lean in on posting on one platform a day consistently and then add in the other. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and hit the assault bike and the rower and the heavy weights. You pick a couple things, you do that for a while, and then maybe you rotate another day. And what I'll remind you though is that as you're getting started, it's highly unlikely, it could happen, I don't want to say never, right? Let's never say never, but it's highly unlikely that your content is going to start getting a ton of engagement right away. And you're going to start to feel like, why am I doing this? No one's listening. No one cares. No one's paying any attention. I promise you they are. And also, this is perfect because you're getting the time to practice. And the story and the lesson that I got along the way from my mentor as I was training is he was at an event and there was some speaker on stage who had millions of followers, and all these people would comment on his posts every single day. And a woman had gone up and was like, hey, I have a question. You know, you have all of these millions of followers and I can't seem to get anybody to pay attention. I did a Facebook Live the other day and I only had 151 viewers at total. And what do I need to do? And the guy was like, you need to get a better perspective, ma'am, because here's the thing. If 151 people in your town died today, it would be a national tragedy. But you're looking at the fact that you didn't have millions of followers as if it's some kind of big deal, when the fact is you had 151 people who wanted to hear what you said, but you don't seem to care about those people because there's a million others who don't know you. But the perspective is, what if just one of those people who heard you, of the 151 people, but what if just one of them, what if what you said changed their life? What if what you said did something that allowed them to go and do something amazing? You're focusing too much on the metric. Exactly like you said, Mark, you're focused too much on the metric and not enough on the message.
That's a really good perspective, because I did my first Instagram Live last week. Well, we're recording this on August 26th, so a week ago. And I had one person show up. And at first I was like, well, this sucks. But then I realized, hey, practice. And then I learned something, because the last time I did Instagram Live, you couldn't post your live as a reel on your profile. I'm like, oh, this is new. So I did something stupid in the beginning. I'm like sitting there not saying anything until someone showed up. Now I know that just start talking. If no one shows up, it still goes on your profile. But here's the thing. I could have gone, man, only one person showed up. Who cares? Who cares? I don't care how many people like my stuff. And I do care how many people like my stuff. So
sure,
let that noodle around your brain. I forgot to post something on TikTok last night. I just said, I'll come up with an idea. Did a 15-second video. Within 10 minutes, I had like 1,500 views. I don't get that many views on TikTok, but I just did it. And you cannot predict. No social media expert that is worth their salt will tell you A plus B equals viral. It doesn't work that way. What went viral last hour may not go viral for you. So just create content. If people like it, great. But the worst is going to happen is you're going to learn something. You're going to get better. Because you're practicing your skill. Stop aiming for perfection. When people do that, it drives me insane, because perfection does not exist on this planet. So just do the best you can. When I started my first podcast on July 7th, 2017, I titled it The Worst Podcast I'll ever do. Hopefully I get better. Hopefully with every episode I got better, right? I mean, it should be the worst episode. It's the first. I should only go up. But a lot of people go into things, not just social media, but in life in general. They set such high expectations, which is fine, except you got to be realistic. If you're way down here, okay, you want to climb Mount Everest, for example. You can't do it this weekend. There's a process you have to do. You have to get in shape. So I just want people to extend themselves grace and enjoy the journey. We're all on this journey. I mean, Gary's killing it. Grant Cardone's killing it. Tony Robbins killing it. But they didn't start last week, and I think people stopped to realize that.
Yeah, and the other thing that's so interesting too is when you really start breaking apart the layers of this onion of social media and the algorithm and all of that, is that in any given point, if you make a post right now, and I'm going to get a little sciencey here for you guys, so bear with me, but I want you to understand there's nuances to this. If you make a post right now on whichever platform, most of the algorithms are designed to go and randomly pick 50 people from your friends list. 25 who are actively engaging with you relatively consistently, and 25 complete strangers. And Facebook or Instagram, whoever's going to put that post in front of those 50 people. And for the first 5 minutes, it's going to track and measure who engages, how often, what kind of engagement. And then they're going to start doing some math calculations. And every time someone engages with your post, it restarts that timer over. And so, again, I don't want to get too into the weeds with the algorithm stuff, but just understand that there's a science to this. And so what can often happen, and I've experienced this in my own life and why I share this story, is maybe you make a fantastic post right now, and for whatever reason, the algorithm just times it wrong and it puts it in front of 50 strange people. Okay, so no one engages with it. Fine. Weird situation. You take that same post and you make it 10, 15 days later at a different time of day, and it goes viral. You get 100 comments, thousands of engagements. Same exact content, just a different timing, different location. It's not calculable. You cannot predict how you're going to go viral because it's just this weird thing that happens. And also, if you save all of the content that you create, knowing that only about 10% roughly of your actual audience is ever going to see it the first time you post, well, now you've got pieces you can reshare. And if you're creating good content and someone who did see it before sees it again, it's likely that they forgot what they saw, so they're going to reread it because they recognize it, and pattern recognition is really important from a marketing and an influence standpoint. And also, if it's really good and they reread it again, maybe this time they're inspired to share it with somebody. Maybe they're inspired to comment and share what they thought, like, oh, I remember reading this before, and here's what happened between then and now. It's so interesting, Mark, how social media can expand out and how you can really lean in on the fact that if you start to understand these things, you don't take as much personal offense to the lack of the metrics. You start to realize that it's just, there's nothing you can really do except continue to play the game. And as things change in the game, the rules shift, adjust the way that you're playing the game to fit inside the rules.
Well, one last thing I want to talk about before we talk about call the damn leads, because it is on your hat. If you're not watching this on video, you're missing it, is I think hashtags have got to go. X has killed them off. LinkedIn's killed them off. They're still on Instagram and TikTok. I can't remember the last time I searched for hashtag. I go search for an SEO term. How do I get better at TikTok marketing? How do I get better at Instagram? How do I do an Instagram live? I think they need to take hashtags out behind the barn and shoot it. I mean, it's been around a while. I think it's over.
Well, Mark, you know what they did with hashtags is they were teaching people how to use SEO keyword functions. Because when social media came out, most people don't understand that these are all actually search platforms. Like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all just search platforms like Google.
Right.
Except what you're searching for is a different type of content. And so what happened is most people never understood how to search anything on these platforms. So they were like, well, let's make it easy on them, right? Give them an easy button. And let's just make these hashtags. Because if they're using a hashtag, then they're thinking about what's the key word, what's the topic, what's the thing. And that's how SEO works. That's how, like, if you ever used AOL, like, you had to go and search keywords so that you could find the thing that you were looking for, right? You're laughing, Mark, because you remember, like, put the CD in, start the account, go to the keyword thing, searching. That's all hashtags
pick up the phone.
were.
Don't pick up the phone. I'm using the modem. Did you ever put a little post-it on the phone in the kitchen to say I'm on the line?
We would move the phone into the room with us on the desk so that no one could touch it. We would have like the extendo cord so that no one could pick it up off the thing. Like, but that's, to me, when you say hashtags, that's what I think of. And why I think they are starting to go away now is because more and more people are being aware of the search functionality. And so instead of, they would just go and search like a hashtag, but the truth is a hashtag is just a keyword. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay. So let's talk about call the damn leads. I don't want to make any assumptions. So I want you to tell me and the listeners, what does that mean? I mean, I got a pretty good idea, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and you know, Mark, I'll touch back on our original conversation to Podmatch, right? When I reached out to you initially, we were matched up as a good fit for a conversation, which I'm so grateful that it did because this has been awesome. And also, when you had responded with, hey, this is a clean show and this is how we run our thing, I also respect that. So my whole point of canceling initially was like, I don't want to come on and offend anyone because my brand, Call the Damn Leads, it means something to me. And it's really just a motto for doing the work, for discipline. Because if you want to be successful in sales, you need to be disciplined enough to pick up the phone and have conversations with the people that you serve. Because that's all sales is. It's a service. You're helping someone either solve the problem and get out of the pain that they're currently in, or they're kind of in like a middle zone and you're trying to get them into the pleasure that they want, right? That's that thing that they desire. So you're getting them one step into the desire because they're not really in pain, but they also don't have the thing that they want. And so for me, call the damn leads is just a mantra to do the work. Because in any area of my life, personally or professionally, doing the work is what gets the results. You can hope in one hand and poop in the other, as they say, and ask which one's going to fill up faster. But that's the way it works. And so for me, call the damn leads originally was like a joke because I had been in insurance sales and was having some success and was like, well, how do I make more money? Well, I need more leads. If I have leads, I can talk to them and I can sell them stuff. So I went online and learned marketing. And I got really good at marketing because I'm kind of good at getting attention. Imagine that. Like, figure that part out, right? And what I learned as I launched my own marketing company and I started acquiring clients and getting them leads is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
And you can fill a sales professional's pipeline, but you can't force them to pick up the phone and call the damn leads. And that was where I started running into the issue of like, hey, if you would just do the thing that you know you need to be doing, that you're paying me to help you facilitate do, you would probably get a result. And they wouldn't do it, and they'd complain that they weren't having any success and they weren't productive, right? This is a productivity podcast. Well, guess what? If you don't do the work, there's no production. Crazy idea. And so I used to just tell my clients all the time, like, just call the damn leads, call the damn leads. You know, I'd go crazy on them. And at one point I said, maybe I'll put that on a t-shirt someday and sell it to all my friends in sales and marketing. And a lot of people were like, Drewbie, that's a terrible idea. It's not professional. No one's going to go for it. You're never going to get into the corporate world. And I said, well, maybe you're right. And respectfully, I understand that there's a line to be drawn when it comes to communication. You can communicate without having to use certain words, tonalities, things like that. And for me, I was really grateful that we were able to meet in the middle mark and have a truly impactful conversation with the respect of there are certain words we're going to use and certain words we're not going to use because we want to make the biggest impact possible. And for me, I know if I tell you to call the damn leads, it's going to leave an impact.
I love that. I remember a story I heard Grant Cardone tell where it was Sunday afternoon, he's watching football, and one of his buddies called and says, oh man, I'm not going to be able to make payroll this week. I'm not making money. The money's not coming in. He goes, you watching the game? The guy goes, yeah. So let me get this straight. You're not going to make payroll and you're watching football. He said, get off the effing phone and get some money. And the guy goes, but it's Sunday. He goes, and the guy said, well, Jesus says take the day off. Yeah, well, Jesus didn't need to make payroll either. So the story always stuck with me because I work 7 days a week because I'm not where I want to be at this point. Mm-hmm. So I work 7 days a week. Now, I don't work as long and as hard on Saturdays and Sundays, but I do work 7 days a week. Yes, Christmas. Yes, my birthday. Yes, New Year's. Why? I want to become uber successful. Now, I'm an only child. Both my parents have deceased. And I was raised in a house where rich people are bad. Rich people are evil. And my parents never talked about money. Then I heard Grant Cardone say, when you make a lot of money, you can help a lot of people. And that struck my heart like, oh my gosh, if you don't have a lot of money, how are you going to help people in need? Let's say your neighbor has a house fire and the insurance only covers the house, but they don't cover their hotel. Wouldn't it be nice to say, hey, we got you. No, we're not going to put you in a cheap hotel. We're going to put you in this nice hotel. We got you. We're going to take care of the meals. You can't do that without money. You're not making money if you don't call the damn lead. See how this all works together?
It's so true. And it is so crazy to me how people will say they want one thing and then do the exact opposite of the thing that they should be doing to get the thing that they want. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Like, Mark, by all means, I will stand here on this podcast, hand to God, and know that there are days that I don't do the thing that I know I should be doing. And also, it's that recognition and the ability and skill set now to learn to recognize that pattern and go, hold on, Drewbie, wait a second, bub. You're doing the thing again that got you to being 300 plus pounds. You're doing the thing that got you to not being able to pay for the things that you like to do, because let's be honest, money is a resource. It is a tool.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we all know how to make money. We go swing a hammer, we pick up poop, we do whatever the thing is that we need to do to earn $1. We all know how to do that. The difference is, I think most people have failed to realize that their most valuable asset, the thing that they can't get more of, is time. I said this at the start. And where I really like to work with my clients on this is because it's, until there's a tangible, it never really feels real. You know, it's kind of like people when you get into spirituality and some of those things, like if I can't feel it, touch it, smell it, taste it, like it's not there. So the tangibility of things is really important. And so this is how I bring tangibility to the value of someone's time. Are you open for me sharing something with the audience today, Mark? Would you be okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And this is something that people pay me a lot of money to coach them through. So I'm going to give it away for free to your audience because I've really enjoyed this, and we wouldn't be here if there wasn't a reason. So I'm feeling called to share this. Okay. And so here's what I look at. If you want to understand the value of your time, there's a few base metrics that we kind of have to work from. A, we all have to agree that an hour is an hour no matter how you slice it. And there's 24 hours in any given day. And, you know, we could spiral off into flat earth theories and all kinds of crazy stuff. But for this given exercise, look, let's just stick with it. An hour is an hour no matter how you slice it. And there's 24 hours in a day. And so if you were to look at your work schedule as a, quote, average person, which if you're listening to a Mr. Productivity podcast, you're probably not average, y'all. So like, I'm not trying to lump you into this, but I'm just saying, if you were average, you would spend 2,000 hours per year working, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. You'd take your 2-week vacation, right? So you'd spend about 2,000 hours of every year working. And so most people grow up in an hourly mentality. I make $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $50 an hour. There's a number somewhere, right? Unless you're in commission, and then that number is like all over the place. So what happens though is we start, as we get older, we have our main job, and then sometimes we pick up a side hustle. Sometimes we take pictures of our feet and put them on the internet and do weird things. And I'm not saying, you know, like whatever. We're not going down that path either. I'm just saying there's things that we're spending our time on to acquire money as a tool, as a resource. And the one thing I know is that you can't buy time. You can't win it in a poker tournament, and nobody gets a box full of it Christmas morning or a card full of it on their birthdays. Okay, Mark? And so like it's a limited asset. So if you took all the money that you made last year as a total, your main gig, side gig, all the little, you know, things we're not talking about too, and you add that up, and then you divide it by 2,000, now you know what your hourly rate truly is. Because if you're spending that time and energy, the things that you can't get back, you should probably have a metric for what that's actually worth. And so the quick and easy math is, let's just say you made 6 figures. You made $100,000 last year. You worked your average 2,000 hours. Your time is worth $50 an hour. Like, that's math. We can't argue that. That is the numbers, okay? Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie, and this is not lying to you. But here's the scariest thing, Mark. Now that we know that number, $25, $50, $100 an hour, whatever it breaks down to, if I put on a hood and I knocked on your door and I was like, hey, Mark, hate to do this to you, bub, but I'm deaf. Got 24 hours left to live. I'm also your boss. Here's $50. I need you for the next hour. What kind of response are you going to give me? You're laughing because you know there's probably some words that we don't use on this podcast that we would say in that scenario because we recognize there's no way I would trade one of my last 24 hours, one of the most valuable things on this planet that I can't get more of. There's no way I would trade it for that amount of money. And that's the big lesson here, you guys, is you don't know how much time you have. There's no guarantee that you're going to wake up 50 years from now, 20 years from now. We don't know. I pray it for you. Like, I hope anyone who hears this episode lives a long, healthy, prosperous life. But I can't promise that. So why do so many people, Mark, still go out and operate as if they have an unlimited amount of this resource that they can't get more of?
That's a very good illustration, because for the longest time, I thought, for example, for me, cutting the lawn was a smart idea. And I'm like, people kept telling me, are you a lawn guy or are you a productivity guy? I'm like, oh, no, it's cheaper for me to do it myself. And they go, really? And they walk me through the same exercise. Now, I pay my lawn guy $40 every time he comes out. Number one, he loves doing the work. Number two, he does a far better job than I would ever do, because I don't really want to do that good of a job. And number three, when he's out there cutting my lawn, doing what he loves to do very well, I'm in here working. But it took 2 years of people telling me, why are you cutting your own lawn? Why are you cutting your own lawn? Guess what? I hire an electrician. I hire a plumber. I don't want to know. I told my wife, I'm not going to learn, go to YouTube and figure out it's my sink. Call the professionals. That's not what I do. That's not what my time is. Because number one, I'm going to mess it up more. We're going to pay twice as much money to fix it anyways. It's just better just cut out the middleman. That would be me. Just have the guy come in and do the right thing. But I think people need to think about that. Like you say, math doesn't lie. I encourage every listener, do the math. Add up the amount you made last year, divide by 2,000. There you go. And like, to use Drewbie's example, let's say you come out to $50 an hour. Your lawn guy charges you $40 to cut your lawn. Think we have a winner here. So math doesn't lie. So I have another question for you. What are some of the excuses? What are the most, I don't want all the excuses. It could be a very long podcast. What are the most common excuses people give you for why they're not calling the damn leads?
Top of the list, honestly, is call reluctance, which I think is a personal issue. Anytime I get on the phone with someone who's like, well, I don't know, I'm a little leery. I just don't like calling leads. I don't necessarily like bothering people. And it really makes me start questioning why they do what they do. Because if you're not passionate about the thing that you're doing as a service, you probably should do something else. Because, like, if you're just showing up every day to get a paycheck, that kind of sucks, you guys. I don't know how else to say it, but if you're just doing it for a paycheck, that's a bummer. I understand that, money is a tool, and there's often times that we make a sacrifice for a season or a reason, but it shouldn't be for a lifetime. And so when I face people who are dealing with call reluctance, because like that is the number one thing I face, I think, more than anything, other than I don't have any leads to call, which that's another conversation in a second. But like the call reluctance thing, I really think is just people not being able to get out of their own way. And again, it comes back to rationalizing and excusing themselves, from the standpoint of, I work at home. Right? My family and I, we moved into a 42-foot fifth wheel RV. It's like 250 square feet in total. It is small. There's stuff. Like, there's a lot of reasons that I could look over and go, well, there's 3 dishes in the sink. And like, I'm a little bit OCD. So like, I kind of feel like I need to go and clean those dishes up. So like, before I start my calls, let me go and clean up these dishes. And then while I'm in there, I realize, well, the dogs need to go out. So I take the dogs out, and that takes 7 or 8 minutes. And then, I come back in and I sit down and I go to start calling, and I realize that there was this email that came in. So I got to respond to the email real quick. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's 4 hours later, you haven't called a single person. Yeah. And you're like, shit, I really should have called some people. But by now, it's kind of late in the afternoon. I'll get back to it tomorrow. I'll get to it tomorrow. Right? Mark, you're laughing because it's so crazy how people will rationalize this. Myself included. I'm not perfect. Literally, before the show, I'm like running around crazy because I'm like, I got this episode at 9 a.m., so I'm trying to feed the dogs, and I'm yelling at my wife because like she's not done all her things. And then I realized that had I sat down and just actually focused on what I need to focus on and done the thing that I needed to do, I would have realized that, A, I had the wrong time for the event today, so I could have had extra time. I wouldn't have been running around all crazy. And funny enough, when you're focused and paying attention, like, you get better results. It's so interesting how that works.
I love that F word. It's one of my favorite F words, focus, because so many people think they're focusing. They're on their phones. Yeah, I'm focusing. No, you're not. You're on your phone. Okay, if you really want to get stuff done, you have to focus. So one of my non-negotiables in my day is to read for an hour every day. Okay. Non-negotiable. People go, well, how do you have time? Because reading for me and learning is more important than seeing what's new on TikTok and all that. Remember I told you earlier, I use social media. They don't use me. So I very rarely scroll through stuff. The only exception is my wife and I, quitting time for me is at 4:00 in the afternoon. And I shut off screens at 7:30. So from 4 to 7:30, my wife and I are watching TV. We watch a couple TV programs. But when it gets around 7 o'clock, it's like no time to start a new show. So we'll watch YouTube shorts on our Apple TV. Sure. That's the only time I'm watching that stuff, because I know that social media is an anti-productivity tool. Most content creators will post and then we'll engage in the comments, respond to DMs, but we're not sitting there for hours on end scrolling through everybody's reels or whatever, because we have other things to do, because we're disciplined. That's one of the words I used to describe you in the beginning, because you talk about crushing your day. It starts with discipline. When people tell me, I don't have time, you got time. You lack discipline. You lack priorities. You have the same 24 hours. And so if you want to focus, is it important to focus? Don't say, yeah, it is. No, show me. Show me how much time you focus. I mean, right now, we had to move this call because tomorrow I've got an opportunity to go to a couple day boot camp. And so we moved it. I moved everything around so I wouldn't miss this boot camp I really want to go to. But I'm still working today, and I'm still working before the boot camp tomorrow. I'm not going to go, well, I got a boot camp from 11 to 3:30 tomorrow. I'm just going to take it easy. I'll scroll on TikTok. No, because this is my business. I am the brand of Mr. Productivity. No one is going to do it for me. So if I'm not feeling well, I still create content. I still engage on social media. If you want it, how bad do you want it? Because you know this as well as I do, Drewbie. You can say you want it, but we can look in your eyes and go, yeah, they really don't want it, because you're not willing to do the things that take, like call the damn leads, create the content, reach out to that client. And let's say, well, what if I don't have their phone number? This is the thing I have a lot of people. I don't have their phone number. Well, can you find them on social media? Do you have their email address? Stop making excuses. A lot of people may hear, I'm afraid that some people hear, I don't have the phone number, so I'm not going to call. Well, do you have their email address? There's more than one way to get a hold of people. I personally don't like getting phone calls. Okay? I don't like getting phone calls.
You're not alone.
Give me a text message, because number one, you got to be really brief in a text message. You can't wander on, because I've got the sayings, get to the point, stick to the point, or send me an email. Mm-hmm. But don't make an excuse that I can't call people because I don't have the number. Do you have their email address? Can you find them on social media? Because if you say, oh, I don't know, that means you're not focused. You're not disciplined enough to do what needs to get done to achieve the goals you want.
Mark, I'll challenge you, because I like to challenge my guests and hosts a little bit. Think about it like this. I'm with you. You know, I don't necessarily want to be on the phone more than I have to be. I don't mind talking to someone if there's a purpose. Like 100%, we got a reason to communicate. That's fantastic. That's why when I go through my training process, I call it the calls process. Imagine that, right? Make it brand on brand. But the first thing is confirm the reason you're having a conversation. If there's no reason for us to be communicating, then there's no reason for us to be communicating. Yeah. Like, that's a big productivity hack right there. If you're doing things with no purpose, you're wasting a lot of your time. So right off the rip, I'm going to confirm the reason we're having a conversation. And then I'm going to ask very specific and relevant questions so that I can listen to what you have to say. Because if I'm listening to what you have to say, you're going to tell me all the things I need to know in order to lay out a perfect plan. And if I have laid out the perfect plan, the only thing left to do at that point is secure the bag. Because at any point, there's a toll to rock and roll. You got to pay the cost to be the boss, right? Like, at a certain point, you got to secure the bag. You got to get them to sign on the line, which is dotted. But it all starts with confirming the reason we're having a conversation. And I'll challenge you in that text messages are great. Agreed. But you know what I do? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So even if you were to text me, Mark, I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to get a notification. And it's really easy for me to look in my phone and see a whole bunch of blue dots of missed messages and be like, yep, I'll get to those later. Or I'll have my team go through them or whatever. But when your phone rings, there's something to that. And while you can ignore my text messages, and you can even put my phone on, like, you can have do not disturb on the phone call. But we've moved to a world where so many people are trying to hide behind the screen, where they're trying to hide behind social media. They're trying to hide behind messages because they don't want to have to admit or be vulnerable or share and communicate how they're actually feeling. That's what's causing such a disconnect in the world. And my challenge to you, Mark, would be over the next 30 days, maybe your goal is sending 25 text messages a day. Maybe make 10 phone calls and send 15 text messages. Just try it. See what happens. And then let me know. Because I promise you that there's still some people out there that would rather have an actual conversation with a human where they can genuinely feel the inflection and the tonality and the energy.
Oh, I agree.
And it will 100%. Make a big difference.
Oh, I agree 100%. My issue is there are people who are spammers who call, and that's one of the reasons why I have that feature on my iPhone that if you're not in my address book, it goes right to voicemail. And they're stupid enough to leave voice messages and say, yeah, this is Apple. We want to verify you want to purchase a MacBook Pro for Drewbie Wilson. I'm like, no, Apple would never call to confirm. They just take your money. Thank you very much and ship the product out. And then there's this thing called Phantom Caller. And I don't know how they do this, but your phone doesn't even ring. It goes to voicemail.
Oh, like a slide dial. If
anybody uses that, listen to the show, I delete your voice message. I don't even listen to it or read it because on iPhone, it gives you the transcript. Because if you can't let me pick up the phone, which I wouldn't pick up the phone, and listen to you talk.
Such a contradiction here. I love it. It's like, if I picked up the phone, I won't. But if I did, this is what I would want.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but the thing is, what you're doing is you're bypassing the phone ringing.
Yeah.
And what I have a policy, number one, I block you, I report you spam, and I delete the voice message. So obviously it works. Doesn't work with Mr. Productivity. So if you're trying to call me or something like that, good luck.
Here's another tip that I would love to share, if you don't mind, Mark, because this is one of the things that's really helped me in my sales career. And so, again, I love to share tactical stuff, and I don't mean to interrupt, but here's why I like to. You're right. Everyone is different. So in my initial communication outreach, like let's say you and I got connected. You're like, you know what, Drewbie, I would love your free book download. Like, I'm going to go to your website and give you my name, phone, email. Fantastic. That's great. My process, I'm going to pick up the phone and call you first. And if you don't answer, then I'll send you the text message that says, hey, Mark, I saw you downloaded my book, wanted to introduce myself and say thank you. What made you decide to check it out?
You asked for the phone number on your opt-in.
Hell yeah, I get them every time.
People filled it. Really? Wow.
Mark, I have a 30% conversion rate to cold traffic.
Okay.
Which is
interesting.
Nearly unheard of in the world. But here's the thing. I'm giving away something of so much value and something that's so relatable and connected that they're willing to share that information. That's the difference. You got to be able to give away something so valuable that people think it's a no-brainer to be willing to give you that information.
That's a really good idea. See, even I learned something new on this show today, ladies and gentlemen. I learned something new because I was always told by the newsletter people, only name and email address. Don't ask for anything else because people won't fill out the forms. But it works for you. And I'm like, now this is something I'll try. I will try this because how am I going to know it works for me or not if I don't try it? I heard Grant Cardone say this in one of his trainings. When someone comes into your establishment, let's say you have a brick and mortar, and they say, okay, whatever, they made the deal, didn't make the deal, whatever, they walk out, text them right away or call them right away. But they haven't got to their car. Yeah, just say, hey, just want to thank you again. Because now you're making more touch points, especially if they're thinking about it. And if you have people's phone number and they just walked out of your office or they just got off the Zoom call with you, then you pick up the phone and call them. Dude, we just got the Zoom call 10 seconds ago. Yeah, you have any questions? I can understand what you're saying because now it's like you did the Zoom call. Now I called you. It's like this is weird. Drewbie, I just stood up for the Zoom call. Why are you calling me? But it's going to make you stand out because how many people do that? And Drewbie, challenge is accepted.
I love that. And again,
challenge,
to me,
I accept it.
I appreciate that. And I encourage everyone to remember, it's about the person. It's not about what I want. It's not about what Mark wants. It's about the individual that you're communicating with. And if you want to communicate with them clearly and get a great result, communicate in the way that they want to be communicated with. If someone wants to be on a phone, get on a phone. If they want you to text them, send them text messages. If at some point you need to take it to another medium, explain why. That's what most people just want to know. Why do I need to get on a call with you when we can have all this communication via text? Well, okay, cool. I want to hop on a call because the information you may have to share could be secretive or protected, and I don't want it to be publicly available. Well, you know what? I don't want to put my social security number on this freaking text thread, so that's fair. Let's hop on a quick call, okay? But you got to ask these people, how would you prefer to communicate? Because if I've given you the choice and then you make that decision and say, hey, I prefer to communicate through email, and I stick with that, what's going to happen? Your level of trust is going to go up. You're going to like me just a little bit more because I'm willing to concede and do the thing in the way in which you prefer to do it. Because ultimately, for me, selfishly, if I know I can get you to where I need you to go, I'm going to get the result and I'm going to get paid. So my job as the professional is to just help walk you through this presentation, transaction, conversation, whatever, in a way that you feel comfortable communicating. Because if I can make you feel comfortable, I can put you in a position to make a decision. And that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. You making a decision to do the thing that you know you need to do, like calling the damn leads.
Wow. That is a great place to wrap up the episode today, because I very rarely get challenged on my own podcast. But you got me thinking. Now I give away this thing called an efficiency breakthrough session, which is a 30-minute call with me, but I don't make the phone number required. So if you're on my email list, for example, and you're like, oh, I want to take advantage of this guy's call, you sign up for it. I don't have a phone number required. Well, now, after our conversation today, it's not going to be required. If you don't want to give me the phone number, that's fine. You can't get the call because I'm giving you something of value. I want your phone number. And
let me give you one little extra, too. Let me share this with you. Put in there like a little note that's like, if you provide your phone number, I'm going to text you over a link to a special productivity guide, tracker, whatever. Normally, I would charge $500 for this. Don't put like some crazy value. Put like a real value on it. Like don't get the FTC on you. But
$1 million.
$1 million. Don't do that. The FTC will 100% crack down on you. But be honest. Like, hey, if you provide your text number, I'm gonna text you over a link or a PDF or a document that you can use before our call to understand how to maximize your productivity, valued at X number of dollars, right? Now there's a reason for them. They're like, well, I wasn't going to put my phone number in there, but I would like to take a look at that productivity sheet. And maybe you're already sending it to them in an email anyways, but they don't know that because they haven't reached that step of the process. It's perceived value up front. So now they're like, well, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Of course I want to let him text me the link to that thing because I want that thing.
Excellent. Okay. Wow. Well, I'm not a mind reader, but I gotta believe I know what you're going to answer the next question. Where can people go to find out more about you and what you're doing in the world?
Mark, first of all, if people want to find me, the best thing that they can do first is they can take this episode and they can share it out on social media and then tag you and I. Tag at Call the Damn Leads. Mark, I'm not sure exactly what your tag is. It's probably Mr. Productivity or something like that. Mr. Productivity, yep. See, I was on it. Well, check me out. Share this episode because if they listen to us and got value, it's likely one of their friends, family members, somebody they know will also get value out of this. So if they do that first, that would mean the world to me. Because after that, then you can go and find me, callthedamnleads.com, Google at callthedamnleads. Like, we're literally on every platform, wherever you prefer to hang out. I'm putting content there for you to check out because I want you to feel comfortable knowing that wherever you are, I will meet you there so that we can have a communication conversation, get you where you want to go. Because that's all I'm here to do is to help you get from where you are to where you want to go by sharing the systems, processes, things that have worked well for me, things that haven't worked well for me, so that you can go and make them your own, steal like an artist, and you can create the life that you want to live in a sustainable fashion, because there's nothing worse than seeing someone that goes really crazy fast and then tumbles on their face. Let's build it in such a way that is sustainable so that you can maximize your time and the life that you get to live.
And Elon, if you happen to be listening to this episode, why wouldn't you? It's Drewbie Wilson on the show. I need more characters that have Mr. Productivity on X, okay? I still got Mark Struczewski on X, but on TikTok and YouTube and Meta, it's all Mr. Productivity, okay? So, Elon, come on. I need 5 more characters.
Come on, Elon. We could use your help, bub.
What's this 15 characters, okay? This is 2024, Elon. Let's span it to 30 so we have more options. But, yeah, that's why I'm trying to grow my X, but people go, Mark's Drew what now? Because I can't, Mr. Productivity is too long.
I think, right?
Well, yeah, but they can't spell it. So.
Yeah, I couldn't spell it either. I've read it. I was like, I think I pronounced it right, and then you shared it. But that's the thing, Mark. And I really just appreciate the time and the opportunity to be here with you and to share on the show. And again, very grateful that we were able to communicate and get past that initial roadblock, because that's all anything in life ever is. It's just a roadblock. You can let it keep you from getting where you want to go, or you can listen to a show like Mr. Productivity Show, and you can find those little tips and tricks from other successful people, which I know, Mark, I'm excited to go back and listen to some of your other shows, because if you had me on here, it's inevitable you had some other amazing guests as well, so I'm going to have to make sure I go and learn from them along the way.
Well, thanks for that, Drewbie. And folks, don't forget, callthedamnleads.com after you share this episode, and MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. I'll be back real soon with a brand new episode. Until then, not only do I want you to stay productive, I want you to stay positive.